Hi team, just making a little quick vid for you about the mentor text because we obviously don't get the chance to meet again and go through it together before we have to actually introduce it to class. And Belle suggested it was important that we were able to sort of make sure we had a really consistent understanding. So I thought this might be the easiest way if you've got 4 minutes at some point to have a little look. So I guess the basic thing in terms of how I have chosen to do these mentor texts is, based on our conversation at Collab, I have really tried to foreground that analysis of the language features is front and center, and that is the main point rather than the interpretation which kind of comes with it. The reason I have done that is that I think, as we were discussing, coming from them first will put our students in a more analytical mindset. And as we know through the writing inquiry and similar things, we are now at grade 9 kind of trying to work towards assessing the evidence first and using a thorough analysis of the evidence to make an opinion rather than having a random opinion like that dogs are better than cats and then trying to find reasons that support us. We want to do analysis first. So you might feel like this is too heavy on that, which is, possibly a quite fair criticism, but I guess I would rather swing further that way down the spectrum and then have them be able to come back in later years and be more nuanced around their argument than forget to actually analyse the language features. So the introduction, I haven't changed that much other than to do that. So I've said one of the key debates around Shakespeare's classic play, Romeo and Juliet, is whether or not Romeo and Juliet's relationship was based on true love. Based on the actions of Romeo and Juliet and the language features used to characterise them, it's clear that they were in lust, not love. Through analysis of these language features, we can see that Romeo's attraction to women is purely physical and that Romeo is unreliable as a character. The key language features that indicate this are Shakespeare's use of imagery, text structures, and oxymoron. So as you can see, I've been really clear around naming up which ones I'm going to analyse. And the other thing here to really focus on with students is that in this section, I have outlined 2 reasons why I feel like they were in lust that are going to become the focus of my paragraphs individually. So the mentor text coming is purely around this idea that Romeo is unreliable. If I were writing a full essay, I would then have a second paragraph that is around Romeo's attraction being physical, and then perhaps a third one, on we go. Students should understand, I guess, that some of them might actually give us 2 paragraphs right now and split these up, and that's awesome, or others might just practice listing all the reasons that might be there in their intro, even if they then only actually write one. They're not expected to prove all of this at once. I guess the other stuff, pretty similar to our normal intros, making sure that we've got a reference to the question and then our own claim in there. That one hopefully is not too different to where we were before. The mentor text itself for paragraph 1, I have changed a bit. What I've tried to do is split up, for us to be clear, an embedded piece of evidence that I explain a bit and then analysis so that that is clear which bit is actually analysing the impact and connecting it back to the question. What else did I do here? Same, just language features being at the beginning. So if we start at the start, Romeo is clearly shown to be unreliable as a character through the extended use of oxymoron and imagery, putting them right at the front. As a result, no declarations of love made by Romeo throughout the play should be trusted. The key thing for students here is that it takes both of my sentences to get that argument across, okay? Because just showing him to be unreliable isn't enough to convince me that it's not love or lust, because I haven't mentioned love or lust here. But by the time I'm elaborating, I'm then being like, okay, he's unreliable, therefore we don't believe him when he says he loves them. So taking both of those sentences in order to introduce what language features you will analyse and linking back to the question is totally fine. Then we get into the first bit of evidence, and as you'll see, what I'm trying to do is embed the quote with a little bit of explanation already before we head into analysis. So I've said in the very first scene where the audience meets Romeo, his speech is heavy with contradictions through the use of oxymoron, such as heavy lightness, serious vanity, misshapen chaos of well-seeming forms that make him nearly incomprehensible. The incredibly fast-paced way Romeo changes his mind creates a sense of chaos that highlights Romeo's confused and unstable state, making his focus on Rosalind seem more like obsession than real love. I guess the thing to point out to students here is there is a small amount of explanation of oxymoron here. I've used the word contradictions to make it clear that I know what oxymoron means. I've embedded an example, and I've included my first bit of explaining that, which is like, he's incomprehensible. He's already too hard to understand. In this section, I've tried to relate it back to exactly what we did in class around those fast changes with this way of that, leading us to his mental state. But again, the key thing for students is the difference here between the two clauses. So, yep, I've explained what happened. The fast-paced way he changes his mind creates a sense of chaos that highlights his confused state. And just like my topic sentence to elaboration, I'm then linking it back to my argument and back to the question, making his focus on Rosalind seem more like obsession than real love. I can't just stop at him being unstable. I need to express that back. The second bit is exactly the same format. I've just tried to use multiple elaborations, and if you wanted to get this deep, you could look at the connectives with students. Things like furthered means that I'm trying to build on that argument. So Romeo's untrustworthiness is furthered by the use of imagery in which he keeps comparing women to the sun. In the famous balcony scene, Romeo asserts that Juliet is the sun where only moments previously he had declared about Rosalind that the all-seeing sun never saw her equal. The similarities in language Romeo uses around his various love interests highlights how quickly he's moved on from one to the other, suggesting that his feelings are far more likely based on lust than true emotional connection and love. I guess I had a choice here whether to separate the comma bits into their own boxes, and I didn't want it to look overwhelming, but this is, I guess, the bit that makes it analysis, right? Yep, he's moved on from one to the other really quickly, and how do I really push that home to my reader that it means something about love? Here we go into that bit. So thanks very much for the elaborations that you guys sent through. A lot of them I think had really similar bits and actually probably had much more elaboration around some of that evidence. But yeah, as I've tried to say, I've tried to make it language features first, really routine pattern of like embedded explanation, analysis and back to question, and hopefully most students are able to meet us there. I assume that some of them might work for a long time to get one really well elaborated piece of evidence, and others might write multiple paragraphs, but that of course is up to us. So any questions, let me know. I'm going to chuck this in Teams, and also there'll be some sentence sort of starters and stuff there, but yeah, thanks heaps for all your help.